I've been saying for 6 months now, hit Iran. They have oil fields out in the open. They have the Revolutionary Guard headquarters you can see from space. Blow it off the map.
This is my video update on this Friday, midday, December the 29th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Trump being removed from the ballot in Maine. The illusion of democracy, folks. The illusion of democracy. The rules-based order. And Putin and Xi, they are the dictators. They are the dictators. But you have the Democrat Secretary of State unilaterally making the decision to kick Trump off the Maine ballot from Zero Hedge, a day after former President Trump's lawyers demanded the Maine Secretary of State recuse herself from her upcoming decision on the former president's ballot eligibility under the 14th Amendment, citing her past statements about the January 6th Capitol riot. Sheena Bellows, a Democrat, has kicked Trump off the state's primary ballot. Good to know that one person can decide who can run for president and who cannot run for president in the state of Maine. One person can make that decision. Boy, are the Democrats setting a very dangerous precedent with all of these tricks and shenanigans. They are really setting up a dangerous precedent. Anyway, Zero Hedge reports that unlike other states, according to The Hill, unlike other states where plaintiffs have sued over Trump's eligibility in court, Maine's system first allows the Secretary of State to weigh in unilaterally, Judge Dredd style. As she explains, she is the law. That's right, Sheena Bellows is the law in Maine. At least in Colorado, removing Trump from the ballot was a decision taken by, 7 people? Taken by the Supreme Court in Colorado. At least that decision was made by multiple people. Now we've come to the point where one person can decide who can run for president and who cannot run for president. So what state is next? What is going to be the next state to make the move and remove Trump from the ballot? I think in Michigan, they tried to remove Trump from the ballot, but it didn't work out. I think the Supreme Court of Michigan shot it down, the effort to remove Trump from the ballot. And actually in Colorado, I believe Trump has now been placed back on the ballot, pending the U.S. Supreme Court decision. But now in Maine, you have the Secretary of State taking this unilateral decision. And there's a picture of Bellows going out for a run, and she's wearing a shirt, Democracy Defenders. You can't make this stuff up, man. You can't make this stuff up. It's an interesting democracy, isn't it? A very interesting definition of democracy. When you can decide, when one person can decide who can remain on the ballot. Is she even elected? Is that an elected position, Secretary of State, or is that an appointed position? I think it's appointed. So you have an appointed state official deciding who can be on the ballot and who cannot be on the ballot in Maine. Very interesting democracy. Very, very interesting democracy. Oh, man. The Biden White House, the Democrats, the neocons, they are doing their very best to make sure that they demolish the United States of America in whatever is remaining of the final term of Biden's presidency. How much time does he have left now? 10 months, 11 months? They're doing their very best to make sure that they burn everything down. All because they're afraid of the orange man. If you don't laugh, you cry. But it is what it is. Anyway, let's get to the next big story, which is a Financial Times article which claims that the G7 is getting ready to confiscate the 300 billion in Russian frozen assets. That is according to the Financial Times, the Biden White House. They have put out a directive. They've put together a working group to move towards stealing Russia's frozen assets, the 300 billion plus or minus in Russian frozen assets. They've been warned by the IMF. They've been warned by financial experts, by lawyers, by economists, by a Nobel Prize winning economist. The Biden White House has been warned by just about everyone. Don't do this. Do not steal these frozen assets. If you steal these frozen assets, you are going to destroy the trust in the US dollar and the trust of investment in the collective West. Don't do this. Please don't do this, Biden. Please, Biden White House, don't do this. And then the Biden White House says, hold my beer. I'm going to create a working group to confiscate the Russian frozen assets. Oh, boy. And you want to know what the kicker is to all of this? The Biden White House, according to the Financial Times, they want to time the confiscation, the stealing of Russia's frozen assets to February 24th, 2024, the 2-year anniversary of Russia's special military operation. That's how they want to time this. They want to announce the stealing of 300 billion in Russian frozen assets to coincide with the 2-year anniversary of the special military operation. Oh my God. Oh my God, what a bunch of clowns they are. What a bunch of clowns. You know that the script writers in DC and London, Hollywood, Brussels, you know they're preparing the speeches for Biden, for Van der Crazy, for all of these people so that on February 24th, 2024, they can come out and say something along the lines of today Putin's war machine has taken another hit. Putin's war machine is in tatters. The Russian economy is in tatters. Today, we have confiscated 300 billion in Russian frozen assets, and we will be using these frozen assets to keep Ukraine fighting the Russian invasion. Something like that. You know, they're going to come up with some sort of script along those lines. And we're supporting Ukraine. This is another indication that we are going to support Ukraine for as long as it takes, or as long as we can, or as long as we feel like it. And so all the countries, they're going to be looking at this. Other countries, the 80% of the world, they're going to be looking at this, and high net worth individuals and oligarchs and various world leaders and princes in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they're going to be looking at this, and they're just going to be like, get my money out of the United States. Get my money, get my dollars out of the collective West. Get my euros out of out of Frankfurt and my pounds out of the UK. That's what they're saying right now. Just the fact that they're talking about this, that they continue to talk about stealing this 300 billion, is freaking out the rest of the world. And it's already damaging the trust that they once upon a time had in the USD and in keeping their money in the collective West. Just that they talk about this is doing damage to the financial sectors of the United States and the European Union. And it's going to do a whole ton of damage to these financial sectors in the collective West. You think de-dollarization accelerated in 2023? Just wait. Just wait for when they steal these 300 billion in Russian frozen assets. Then you're going to really see de-dollarization ramp up. Anyway, the Financial Times, they write in the first two paragraphs, the U.S. has proposed that working groups from the G7 explore ways to seize 300 billion in frozen assets as the allies rush to agree a plan in time for the second anniversary of Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. While no decision has been taken and the issue remains hotly debated inside European capitals, the acceleration of work on confiscating Moscow's assets for Ukraine highlights its rising importance for the West. The U.S., backed by the UK, Japan, and Canada, has proposed moving forward with the preparatory work so the options could be ready for a potential meeting of G7 leaders around February 24th, the date of Vladimir Putin's 2022 offensive in Kiev. This 2-year anniversary celebration is going to be marked with a confiscation of 300 billion in Russian frozen assets. Something tells me that Russia, while they are threatening and warning retaliation, something tells me that Putin is sitting in his office in the Kremlin just laughing at all of this. You're so desperate, you're losing so bad in the conflict in Ukraine that you're willing to blow up the entire US dollar financial system, trust in the financial system. You're willing to blow that up for what? For a clown, puppet, comedian, actor, for Project Ukraine. Unfreaking believable. Unbelievable. Well, when they do confiscate the assets, I've said this multiple times, the confiscation, the stealing of these assets, in my opinion, will mark the absolute definitive end of the Ukraine conflict, the definitive loss of the collective West in Project Ukraine, in this conflict, this proxy war with Russia. That will be the end. Once they steal those assets. That's going to be the cherry on top of Biden's Project Ukraine shit cake. Is there anybody in Congress, anybody in Europe who can talk Biden down from this ledge? Is there anybody that understands what they're about to do? Nobody. Nobody is saying anything. Even though he's been warned by all kinds of analysts and experts and economists. There's no one in government, no one in a leadership position to stop Biden from doing this. What Congress should do in order to protect the US dollar and protect the trust of the US as a financial investment hub, an investment center, what they should do is they should pass a law which prohibits Biden from stealing these frozen assets. Actually, what they really should do is give these frozen assets back. That's what they should do. That's what Congress should do, but they're not going to do it. Anyway, let's move on. 10, 11 months left of the Biden White House, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that they demolish the United States of America in the remaining 11 months. Wow, unbelievable stuff. So Bloomberg, they are reporting that Ukraine is sounding the alarm bells because they are running out of money very, very quickly. Ukraine asks donors for prompt funding, citing high uncertainty on budget. Shmyhal signs exceptionally high uncertainty on pledged aid. And the premier says budget needs come first in shift to survival. That's the prime minister of Ukraine, Mr. Denis Shmyhal. And according to Bloomberg, the head of the government was alarmed by the high degree of uncertainty regarding the country's budget. In other words, he intends to find out how much longer he can tolerate the slowness of Western politicians in making payments to Kiev. On Wednesday, the head of the Ministry of Finance said that without a new tranche of $37 billion, 10 million pensioners will not receive pensions, and 500,000 officials and 1.5 million teachers will not receive salaries. It is unknown how the recipients reacted to the letter and whether they agreed to the meeting, according to Bloomberg. So Shmyhal wants to know, the prime minister of Ukraine wants to know, when are we going to get this money, and how much money are you going to give us, Collective West? Because we have a big hole of $37 billion, and without the $37 billion, Ukraine can't pay pensions, it can't pay teachers, it can't pay government salaries, it can't pay the salaries of parliament members. The entire Ukraine economy is being supported by the United States of America and by the European Union. The entire economy. Teachers, pensions, salaries of government officials, first responder salaries, police salaries, all of it is being supported by the Collective West. And the interesting part is that when they steal this $300 billion, not much of that money is going to actually go to helping the people of Ukraine. That's the crazy part about this theft that's about to take place in February 2024. You're going to have 10% to the big guy. You're going to have a whole ton of money go to the military-industrial complex companies. You're going to have a whole ton of money go to BlackRock and Monsanto and all the other companies that actually believed Biden in his Project Ukraine operation, and they invested in Project Ukraine, and they signed all these contracts to develop land in Project Ukraine and buy infrastructure in Project Ukraine. All these companies, these multinational huge companies, they actually believed that that Biden was going to win in Ukraine and that they would get a regime change in Russia. And so they thought, you know what? Sure, we'll follow Biden down this path, because what we invest now in Biden's Project Ukraine operation, we're going to make a massive return, because not only will we have Ukraine to plunder and pillage, but we'll also have Russia to plunder and pillage. And now all of that has been disappeared. So you got to imagine that companies like BlackRock, they're going to take a big chunk out of the $300 billion. You got to imagine that something like that is going to happen. So how much of this $300 billion is going to actually go to the teachers and the pensioners and the people of Ukraine from this $300 billion? Not much. And then, of course, you're going to have a lot of the money which is going to be disappeared because of just the inherent corruption in Ukraine. So they're destroying the entire US dollar financial system for what's going to be a theft, money laundering, washing machine operation. Sad. So sad. So CNN, they put out an article yesterday with the title, Ukraine's Hopes for Victory Fade in the Face of Waning Western Support and Putin's Relentless War Machine. So CNN and much of the collective West media, they're preparing the collective West population that actually bought into the ghost of Kiev and the siege of Kiev and the Great Kherson counteroffensive, and Putin is suffering from his 38th heart attack, and Russia's going to collapse. They're preparing all of these people for the eventual announcement, the eventual reality that Russia has won this conflict. That is what they're doing. Trickle truth. They're preparing everybody in the collective West for the inevitability of the collapse of Project Ukraine. Hope. Ukraine's hope for victory fade in the face of waning Western support. Ukraine's hope for victory ended on February 24th, 2022. NATO proxy, Ukraine's hope for victory ended on February 24th, 2022. That's the reality of it. Ukraine's sovereignty ended in 2014 with the Maidan coup. So yesterday and this morning, Russia, which is out of weapons and now just has shovels. Anyway, Russia managed to find some weapons and some missiles under the sofa cushions, and they launched a massive strike throughout all of Ukraine. They hit everything. They hit everything in every city in Ukraine. The Ukraine Air Force spokesman, Yuri Ignat, said that we, Ukraine, has never seen so many targets at once on our monitors. Kiev was hit, Odessa was hit, Kharkiv was hit, the west of Ukraine was hit, Lvov was hit, NATO facilities were destroyed, weapons storage facilities were destroyed, weapons that were being stored in shopping centers, which Ukraine does often. Those weapons were destroyed. Ukraine air defense, the Wonder Weapon Patriot air defense system was pretty much a no-show. Actually, it seemed like it was malfunctioning because missiles from the Patriot systems were actually falling down on apartment buildings in Ukraine, in Odessa and in Kiev. They weren't even getting close to hitting the Russian missiles. And I'm sure Zelensky's going to come out with a statement saying that Ukraine managed to hit 74 of 76 Russian missiles that were launched towards Ukraine. I'm sure he's going to make that statement soon, even though we have all of the videos and the photos basically showing that Russia hit anything, everywhere, at any time, wherever they wanted. And the air defense system was pretty much a no-show. So the Netherlands, they are preparing the people of the Netherlands for an eventual war with Russia. True story. This is a true story. Netherlands should prepare for war with Russia, says the army chief. The entire society must be ready when things go wrong, General Martin Wienen has said. Let's see here if I have a quote from this general. The Netherlands should not think that its safety is guaranteed just because we are 1,500 kilometers away, Wienen warned, adding that Russia is getting stronger. Wienen told De Telegraaf newspaper on Thursday that the Netherlands must work on its operational readiness, ensure that we have enough deterrence to deprive any adversary of the courage to attack us. He also claimed that there is only one language that Russia understands, and that is the one of robust armed forces. So according to this general, Moscow has designs on the Baltic states. After it wins in Ukraine, it is going to go after the Baltic states, and then eventually it's going to come after the Netherlands, which is ridiculous. But the EU states, the Baltic states, the Netherlands, Germany, Poland, they should be afraid. They really should be afraid. Not about war with Russia, but they should just be afraid in general because they really effed up. They really, really effed up. They were dumb enough to actually follow Joe Biden down this Project Ukraine path. They actually believed Joe Bidenopolis, they believed Joe Bidenopolis, Antony Blinken, Jake Sullivan, Victoria Nuland, they actually believed these people and followed them down their Project Ukraine, NATO proxy war, regime change, Moscow plan. And now they're afraid. They're afraid because they understand that Russia won and Project Ukraine is a big bust. And they're afraid. What is Russia going to do to extract revenge on us? Because you see, in their minds, that's what they would do if someone wronged them. If some country decided to regime change the government in Netherlands with a proxy war, and Netherlands won that proxy war, they would extract revenge and then some on that opponent, on that enemy. So they're now afraid that Russia is going to do to them what they would do if someone did what they did to Russia. You know what I mean? That's why they're afraid. But Russia's not going to go to war with them. That's not how Russia operates. Russia plays the long game. Putin plays the long game. And Russia will get revenge, but it's not going to be a war. It's not going to be because you wanted war with us, because you went to war with us, Netherlands, we're going to go to war with you. Russia will find asymmetric ways to punish all the countries in the European Union that decided to go to war with Russia. What that's going to be, I have no idea. But you can be sure that the Putin government, they're planning things out in the long term, like over the next 10 years, as to how they're going to make these EU countries pay for what they did. That I can guarantee you. And much of the time, Russia doesn't have to do anything, to be quite honest, because the collective West does it to itself, like stealing the $300 billion in Russian assets. I mean, Putin's laughing. He's laughing. He knows that this is going to be one of the big nails in the coffin of the USD. He knows that. And on the one hand, he's sending out warnings, don't steal our assets, or else. But on the other hand, you know that Putin, being the judo master that he is, he's saying, you're doing it to yourselves, but go ahead. Like Alexander said in his video yesterday, the Biden White House was warned about the sanctions. They were warned about the oil price cap. They were warned about SWIFT and removing Russia from SWIFT. They were warned about all these things, but no reverse gear. No reverse gear. Anyway, how am I doing on time here? All right, let's move along. Let's move this along. So Ukraine's foreign minister, Mr. Kuleba Kalua, he said that Europe, they don't know how to fight. He said Europe does not know how to fight. He's upset because the Europeans are not able to ramp up production of weapons, of ammunition. He said Europe doesn't know how to fight wars. The production of weapons is not the most popular area of business. And unfortunately, our friends spent too much time deliberating on how and when to ramp up their production of weapons and ammunition. This is his statement from an interview that he gave with the Kiev Independent. And he's right. Europe doesn't know how to fight. and Europe was unable to ramp up production of ammunition, but that's because Europe can't. They can't do it. They're just not capable of getting to the levels of where Russia is with regards to the production of ammunition. They don't have that capability. And Kahlua he can't get that through his thick, big head of his. He doesn't understand that it's not because Europe doesn't want to. If Europe could produce 10 million shells or 20 million shells to defeat the Putin, they would. But they just don't have the capability. They don't have the money. They don't have the industry. Not to mention that Europe, they sanctioned Russian energy, which played a big part in keeping their production costs very low and very competitive. So they shot themselves in the foot with regards to cutting off Russia. But Kahlua can't get it through his big freaking head. Europe can't do it. The US cannot do it. They're not built like that anymore. You know, Kahlua, I say Kahlua, his real name is Kuleba, but I say Kahlua, Mr. Kahlua, Mr. Kuleba, he's like the type of guy that you would ask him, where does food come from? And he would be like the supermarket, and you would be like, no. Beyond the supermarket, where does food come from? And he would be like, the supermarket. You know, he's like that type of guy. You know, Europe, just produce the ammunition. Yeah, but we can't produce the ammunition. What do you mean? Just produce the ammunition. But we can't produce the ammunition. Don't you understand? We can't do it. No, I don't understand. Just produce the ammunition. You guys don't know how to fight a war. You know, he's like that type of guy. Not the smartest foreign minister. He's like right under Annalena 720i. He's like right below her when it comes to intelligence. So let's shift gears and talk about the ramp up to a conflict with Iran. Here we go again, once again, Iran, conflict with Iran. We had Lindsey Graham yesterday come out on Fox News, and Lindsey Graham, he told Fox News that he has been saying for many months now that the United States should hit Iran and blow it off the map, because the neocons, they understand that they're never going to get this good an opportunity like what they have right now to go after Iran with all the warships in place. They understand that it's now or never. Now is their chance to get that war that they have been wanting to get started for 20, 30, 40 years. And so Lindsey Graham, he's like, let's do it. Let's hit Iran. And moments after Lindsey Graham's appearance on Fox News, all of this is coordinated. All of this is coordinated. Moments later, we had a joint statement from France, Germany, Britain, and the United States condemning an increase by Iran in the production rate of enriched uranium. So many people are worried that what we are seeing is the beginnings of WMD Part 2. You had Iraq WMD, and now it looks like they're taking the same playbook with Iran, and they're preparing with Iraq. They're taking the same playbook with Iraq, and they're preparing the Iran WMD playbook. So you have a joint statement from France, Germany, UK, and the US warning Iran about uranium enrichment. So you have all the warships there, and you got to imagine that the neocons are not gonna let these warships just sit there and just escort ships through the Red Sea. You got to imagine that the neocons, they want to put these warships to action. But they were afraid to go after the Houthis. What do you think is going to happen if they go after Iran? They were afraid about the Houthis. Can you imagine what Iran is going to do to these warships? I don't know, but they're going to want to start something, and you can see that they're putting everything together to build the narrative of Iran as a nuclear threat. So we better do something now. We better put together a preemptive strike or something like that. Anyway, we're going to have to watch this story because what we have going on is the beginnings of some WMD narrative creation. And let's do one more story before I get to my clown world. So the UK, they decided to send a warship in the direction of Guyana and Venezuela because the UK says that they want to protect their former colony, their Commonwealth nation of Guyana. Britain's decision to dispatch a warship to Guyana breaches the spirit of the agreement to resolve the Essequibo dispute peacefully and will be met with defensive action, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said on Thursday. Earlier this week, the UK announced it would send the offshore patrol vessel HMS Trent, currently deployed in the Caribbean, to visit the regional ally and Commonwealth partner. So Venezuela has said that this is an escalation and that they're going to start to take defensive action against this warship heading towards their waters. And you just got to ask yourself, why? Why, UK? Why? Guyana and Venezuela, they sat down at a table together, along with Brazil mediating, and they decided to solve this situation peacefully through negotiations and dialogue. They decided this. Both sides said, we don't want war, we don't want conflict. Let's put together a roadmap to solve this dispute diplomatically. This was decided on 2 weeks ago. But nope, not good enough for the UK. Not good enough. So now they have to send a warship to stir up trouble. What is with the government in the UK in 10 Downing Street? What's up with them? You sent Boris to Kiev to sabotage a ceasefire in the conflict in Ukraine, and now you sent a warship to Guyana towards Venezuela in order to sabotage a peace process there. Like, what the F, man? Anyway, let's do a clown world and we'll wrap this video up. So we have a statement, a tweet from Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Let me read you his tweet. This has been an extraordinary, dangerous year for press around the world. Many killed, many more wounded, hundreds detained, attacked, threatened, injured, simply for doing their jobs. I'm profoundly grateful to the press for getting accurate, timely information to people. Now, why is this a clown world? I think everyone who's watching this video can guess why this tweet from Blinken is a clown world, but let me read you a post underneath this, a reply underneath this tweet from the U.S. Secretary of State, from Chen Weiwei, who says, more journalists were killed in Gaza in the last 2 months than any conflicts in recent decades, according to the CPJ. And the U.S. was partly responsible because of its full endorsement to Israeli military operations and the weapons, bombs it provided, and the ceasefire it vetoed. Exactly right. That is exactly spot on. As Antony Blinken talks about the dangerous year for journalists, he fails to mention that there has indeed been more journalists killed in Gaza than I believe any conflict in recent decades. So an interesting tweet from Blinken. Very interesting tweet from Blinken. And do I have time for another quick clown world? Okay, I can do one more quick clown world. It comes from Responsible Statecraft, who put out their biggest foreign policy losers list of 2023, from the Biden team and humanity to our wrong-headed TV generals. This was a year of catastrophe and political failure. Let me just give you some of the names on this biggest loser list. Ukraine is on the list because of their failed, botched, super-duper counter offensive that offended everybody, including responsible statecraft. Israel and the Palestinian people are on this list. Joe Biden is one of the biggest losers of 2023. What else? The Armenian people. They have the Armenian people on this list. African coup and civil war victims are on this list. Sweden is on this list because of its botched entrance into NATO. It will eventually enter NATO, but it has been very bumpy over 2023. The American taxpayer, for supporting things like Project Ukraine, they are on this list. Jake Sullivan is one of the biggest losers of 2023, as well as American generals like Ben Hodges and Petraeus and Stavridis and Keane and McCaffrey, who said that Russia is running out of weapons and the Russian military will collapse any day now. They are on this list, as well as Malcolm Nance, the MSNBC reporter who was reporting at one point in time from Ukraine from the beginning of the special military operation. And he was making a whole bunch of stuff up about being on the ground in Ukraine, something like that. The New York Times put out a report on Malcolm Nance, and they destroyed his war correspondent narrative, and he was on this list as well. Anyway, that is the list of biggest losers from Responsible Statecraft for 2023. All these end-of-the-year lists, the only list that matters is my Clown World of the Year list. That is the one list that matters, and I will have that out soon. So be on the lookout for that video. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. 20% off. Use the code Christmas20. Take care.